All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Noa Lakshmi. For those of you who don't know me and are new to my channel, and if you are listening to the podcast, to my new podcast, so welcome. And today I have a super duper uber special guest. His name is Dan McDonald. Some of you may know him as the Life Regenerator on YouTube. And personally, Dan has been a huge source of inspiration for me on my path. I actually discovered Dan on YouTube almost a decade ago. It was 9 years ago. And when I started to explore raw food and living foods, I had been a vegan for a long time. And then I found Dan, and that completely changed my entire life. He really inspired me to get into juicing and to really see this path of living foods more than just a diet, more than just, oh, this is what I choose to eat, but this is how I choose to live. And even prior to that, I was always very drawn and passionate about natural living and natural hygiene and how to take care of the body and the mind and the soul like a temple. And Dan is definitely one that walks the talk. And that's one of the things that kept me going back to his videos. And still a decade later, I'm still here, and I still find so much inspiration in what he shares and his wisdom. And one of the things that I'm inspired by and really admire in Dan and the way I choose to live and what resonates with me so much is that for him, it's not just about the food, but it's a way of living. And the food is just one step, and it's a very, very important step, which we're going to talk about here today. But to really harness the power and the potency of the living foods for your spiritual evolution, for your spiritual development, and combining and merging the body and the spirit. And the living foods is definitely a pathway to embody your own divinity. So I'm thrilled and stoked and delighted and excited and all the words that you can find to have this opportunity today to speak with Dan and to not just enjoy his company and his presence, but also to share his light and his knowledge and his love and his heart with my viewers and people that might be drawn to this conversation. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Dan McDonald if you don't know him already. And if you are new to my channel or Dan's channel, please check out his channel as well, which is The Life Regenerator. You are not going to look back once you find him. So, hello, Dan McDonald.
Thank you.
Yes, it's a joy and a pleasure to have you here. And just before we get into all kind of questions and go all kind of rabbit holes, if you could please share with the audience just a little bit about yourself and your path and what was your what drew you to the living foods and the role that living foods play in your life.
Well, it's a story that many have heard before, but for your viewers, maybe not. It was a rainy day in Seattle, and this was about almost 18 years ago, a little more than 18 years ago. And it was, I was walking by a bookstore, and to get out of the rain, I walked in to the spiritual bookstore on Broadway in Seattle. And as I was just kind of trying to stay dry, I remember I was high that day. I was drunk, walking along the streets of Seattle, which is where I lived. And I was homeless at the time. And obviously, drinking and smoking and doing all sorts of other things. And I was just, I didn't go into a spiritual bookstore to read spiritual books. I just wanted to stay dry. And I was looking around at the books and stuff like that. I don't think I'd ever even really been in a place like that, to tell you the truth. And after about 5 or 10 minutes or so, the guy looked over at me and he said, "Do you want to know the real truth?" And I said, "Sure." And so he handed me a $1 book called The Essene Gospel of Peace. And I thought, well, $1, I can afford that. And so I bought that book and I took it with me and I read it that day. And from a dude who, I was already primed by raising up as a Jehovah's Witness with my mom, and then my stepmom was a born again Christian. None of any of that which really did anything for me. I was quite repulsed by it, honestly, to tell you the truth. I did get involved in knocking on doors and stuff like that. I was pretty good at it. And everyone was well intentioned. I just didn't see the fruits of their labors, if you know what I mean. So to be introduced to something which I call true spirituality, which has a transformative effect, which now, after all these years, I realize is due to the nature of the consciousness level of the book, that is the Gospel of Peace. And so I knew that that book, all that information about fasting and raw foods, really penetrated in a way that the Bible never did. Of course, it's politically incorrect to say anything about this, but I give a rat's ass about political correctness in this day and age. We need to get our lily asses on the way to the path of truth, or we're going to lollygag for eons and eons of time. So I have just razor bladed myself into the most high consciousness that I can find, and I don't have time for any fluff. That's just for my own life. I know some people, they want to fluff around for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And for me, it's getting really, it's almost a desperation. Like I can't breathe without more truth. I can't breathe if I get off track. I start to feel the separation of the presence if I start to kind of go off course. And everything is about getting back on course, whether it's with the diet, whether it's in the relationships, whether it's in my daily spiritual sadhana, or even in my own thoughts. It always has to keep coming back. And then if I get off track, I can feel it, because you'll notice there's less presence, there's less peace, there's less ease, there's a little anxiety. In God, we're not going to have any anxiety. So if there's anxiety, what is it that's bringing it in? And so I keep steering back onto course to align myself with divinity as much as possible within this experience, So the Gospel of Peace book completely transformed my entire life. I had never heard about fasting or live foods. I was lifting weights at the time. So I'm a 200-pound steroid taking, alcoholic, pothead, homeless, womanizing, lost soul. And I read this book, and it's hard for people to imagine, but I was literally filled with light. And what came into my being was, this is where you left off in your last lifetime. I didn't know anything about lifetimes, reincarnation, karma, Indian sages, yogic mystics, or anything like that. So how did I have those thoughts? I don't know, but this is where you left off in your last lifetime. Well, now it all makes sense after meeting some of my Essene brothers, Lou Corona, Tavis, reading all the Essene literature, doing all the research on the internet as much as possible about the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Essenes and what they did with live foods and fasting. It's a very small sect. And what we realize is that this isn't for the masses. This is for the elect. And when we get to be a child of the light, and when we are selected, I don't know if we are selected or if we just choose to allow ourselves, are all chosen and few choose, or I don't really know. Or am I just really one of the blessed ones who have been able to just see the light and to be able to align myself with those rare principles, because even this morning I wrote on my Instagram, most people are satisfied with the mentalization, the intellectualization of Christianism or Jesusismness, you know, and that's just not enough to have the heady headspace of my mental constructs are going to get me to heaven, and you with your new age loving God with all your heart crap is going to send you straight to hell because you don't believe in. This one guy wrote to me this morning, you got to eat Jesus's body and you got to drink his blood, like literally, and that you have to eat dead animals and that kind of thing, or you'll never know who God is. And I'm just thinking, I think that the world has been possessed by Satan. I think that Satan is living inside of people in their stomach in the form of worms and parasites. I think that there are energetic entities that are getting into people through technology and the lies of religion and the inhibition of the teachings of truth that were buried. But anyways, I don't know if anyone's interested in any of this, but basically that's a little bit of how I got to this place. And now I am, as of today, hungrier for more truth. I'm not saying I know all the answers. I wouldn't want to be one of these people who I see every day, who there's a little bit of frustration there. Not much. I mean, I kind of feel sorry for them in a certain way. But I understand, you know, for me, it's just mental is the mind is, in fact, is kind of the last barrier. You have to stop believing in your own beliefs to tap into Brahman, God, the infinite, the almighty, whatever you want to call it, the Godhead. You got to get out of your own brain. And that's basically been my journey as of late, because, you know, I can see how the body was where I started with the living foods and resensitizing the living tissues so that I could begin the process of eliminating and becoming aware of the dead tissues, the scar tissue, the calcareous deposits, the heavy metals from the vaccines and everything else that most people will never get a chance to detoxify. And so that'll really inhibit their conductivity or their ability to receive, you know, the light and to emanate that light, to receive it and emanate it. And so if we get a little discomfortable in the detoxification of the body, or the detoxification and the opening of the heart, or the regeneration of the thymus gland, really, a lot of us think that it's our heart, but it's actually the thymus gland, which is the gland that is the feeling gland of the organism. And science never figured out, or the doctors, the medical establishment never figured out. They just think that everyone's thymus gland should shrink. Why would God put this huge thymus gland into a baby and then all of a sudden it's supposed to shrink? We know that the vaccines and the cooked foods and the animal flesh shrink the thymus gland so that you become desensitized, which is how most people want to live. They don't want to feel. But if you're the opposite of that, you really want to feel, you want to become resensitized. So sometimes you have to leave society and go somewhere where the air is fresh and the grass is green and the trees and the animals and the birds and the nature can love you back. And that's not very easy for everyone to do because of the consciousness of the matrix and whatnot. So you have to break free from all that. And so I don't even know where this tangent's going, but it sure sounded good. It was a lot of fun. So I'll just stop there. And if you have any questions,
No, Dan, that was so awesome. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like when you get into the flow and you start channeling, it's a blessing. And there's so much wisdom. And oh my God, you said so much. But I really want to address that, the Essene that you were talking about first, and then we'll see where that goes. Because I so feel you on that, and literally just feeling it in my heart when you were talking about it, because I heard you talking about the Essene years and years ago, and I did not grow up in any, I was born Jewish, so Christianity, Jesus was not part of my life, but I always felt close to Jesus for some reason. And then when I did my first ayahuasca ceremony years ago, Jesus came to me very clearly. It was, big early 30s. And I was like, okay, Jesus. And he became my homie. And slowly I just started reading more books about the truth of Jesus. If you take the church aside, so the truth about Jesus. And then a year ago, I actually read the Essene, the 4 books of the Essene Gospel of Peace. And I was sobbing. I could not read without crying. And I got the same message. I was there. I was there. And I feel, and that's one of the reasons I was just telling Dan before we started the recording that I start crying on my walk today, because I feel that soul connection of what we did in past lives. And people that are drawn to this video and are watching this, there's a reason for that as well. And we are starting to remember where we came from, who we are truly, and what we are here to do. So I so hear you on the Essene, and they knew what the body is and the incredible vehicle that it is, and how we can actually use the body and utilize the body to be a connection to God. So if you can speak a little bit more about the process of purification and detoxification in order to amplify that connection. What does that entail? Some people believe like, oh, okay, I just do a juice cleanse and I'm done. So if you can maybe elaborate a little bit about the process of detoxification and what it really takes.
Yeah, I've dealt with that quite a bit. There was just a comment the other day, 18 years of purification, you're not done yet, LOL, right? Aha, but now why would that be? Because most of the people we find in this day and age, they think they are this thing. This thing is the manifestation of something else. So for most of us, we think, me body, this is mine, this is what I am. And then they think that consciousness is the byproduct of that. But as we get more evolved, we understand the consciousness, the light is first, and then there's the mental body, then there's the emotional body, and then there's the physical body. It's not the other way around, so we think that when I say purification, I only mean of the body. And what I'm actually working on now is purification of the heart and clarity of the brain mind and purification of the mind. And so you can see that when you have that lustful look in your eye, or you see the mind going after its objects, I want, and then you get more sophisticated, you realize that wanting is the beginning of suffering. Because to want means you don't have. But when you can embrace this moment as being perfectly fulfilling, and the wantingness goes away, there is no greater blessing than you could ask for than to want nothing. Because I've asked myself that question for a year straight while living in Hawaii. What do I want? The answer kept coming back as nothing. I don't want anything. And I have found so much peace by that, because I was conditioned, of course, to want, as we all are, conditioned to want. And when you actually get aware of the presence of divinity within you, you already have that. And the joy and the peace and the bliss and the happiness and the fulfillment and the overflowing cup, when you walk into a room and you see everyone change because of what you're holding and what you're carrying and the light that you've cultivated within yourself, it's not personal. You're not a superstar, rock star. You're just blessed that you did the work to clear your gut, to clear your heart, to clear your brain, and to clear those fields of energy so that the pure spirit can come into you when you walk into a room. the pure spirit. It's God itself. It's not you. You're not like, I'm changing this room. Me, I get the credit. It's like, thank God for using me to be a blessing to this room when I walk in, to shine my light on all these other mirrors that are ready or not ready. You know, some are ready, some aren't. A lot of my friends here are ready and really respect me and love me for the light that I carry. My real life is 1,000 times brighter than the brightness of the one sun of social media. You know, the social media can be a toxic cesspool of confusion and hatred. My real life, there's never such thing. So it's been a real challenge for me to be on the social media, because my real life is like living in a dream of paradise and magical, mysterious unicorns and butterflies everywhere, manifesting things instantaneously. And then the social media, there's all these energy cords that attach onto my back. And then every video that I make, I have to take like about a week or 2 or 3 to regenerate and clear all those cords of all the people that are latching on to me. And so it's gotten increasingly more and more difficult to be on the social media, knowing though that there are some individual souls, and the vast majority of the people are very positive and grateful. But it's just those clingers and those demonic entities that hate the light of truth. And so I'm working on that right now, seeing if there's a way to be able to avoid that, that energetic, latching on. Because when I disappear, it no longer happens. When I no longer make videos, I don't get those. And then my energy just grows and grows and grows and grows until I reach these incredibly high states. And then I think, okay, I got to go to the YouTube and I got to share this with people, because there are people that are desperate. And then there's people that, like, my suggestion is to read all the books that I've read, but not everyone's going to be able to do that. And they look to me as a person who can take this extremely impossible to explain information and actually put it into terms where it can, the mind and the heart and the energy can absorb it, because there's the skinny white dude speaking in English and they can absorb it, and so I feel like a responsibility, like I want to reach out and be of service. And so it's just been a little bit of, I'm still looking into that and trying to understand it, because I'm very politically incorrect, but all I can do is speak the truth of what I know. And it's just pure God light. That's all that interests me. I know I use a lot of words, and we look at the diet, which I think is the key, but it's, for me, it's only the light in the food that really matters. The light, the information, and the energy. I know that we all look at vitamins and we all look at fiber and protein and all this stuff, but none of that really has any interest to me whatsoever. It's really the light in the food, so that the body can be a body that is able to contain that much light. Because as the light grows in you, your nervous system is going to be cleansing out all of that debris that's left on your nervous system in the forms of mental ignorance, emotional stagnation, physical obstructions in the fascia, in the tissues, in the lymphatic system, the worms and the parasites and the yeasts that are of the unfavorable type. And then when you start filling yourself with light, because the light of your thoughts, the light of your love, and the light of the power of the food, it's going to move everything out of the way. And that's why so many people make it a few months on raw foods, and then they start to feel the calcareous deposits. They start to feel the stagnation in the emotional body. They start to feel the heavy metals in the brain and in the joints and the inflammation. And they start to feel the generational curses, because each generation is constantly we've been killing each other, killing the planet, killing animals, and kill. That's why I love the Essenes, because they were totally understood that life comes from life and death comes from death. And we live in a world where death is worshipped, where death is like, it seems like everyone thinks that death is absolutely necessary for life. But that's only in the animal kingdom. When you rise up into the human consciousness, that's why humans are so cool, because they've developed such a frontal lobe that they can create these scenarios for their own personal life where they do not have to have the karma of killing God's innocent creatures, and can live within this harmonious, this synchronicity and this harmony between basically the fruits, really, and this symbiotic relationship with nature in our original, where we originally thrived. You realize the more north you go or the more south you go, the more animal products are being consumed by the creatures that live in those areas. And so it's really our choice, but we can choose to go back to those environments where we can thrive as a human being and create those paradise gardens where we live off the life and not off of the death. And that can really be quite a bit of a profound shift due to the nature of the laws of life, which the Essenes knew very well, the laws of life. They knew the laws of nature, which we can see with our eyes, and they perfected and followed those with living foods and fasting and moderation in all things and equilibrium within the flow of the natural world. That allowed them to be able to tap into higher levels of consciousness in the more invisible and subtle realms. And then they were able to, and any master that gets to a certain level of awareness and receptivity can absorb the divine knowledge and speak truth and write books and be an orator, because the channel is clear and they can tap into the Godhead as opposed to the intellectual brain facts, which mostly are just a bunch of rehashed garbage that never really worked for anyone, because you can see the preacher man is up there breathing hard with about 50 or 80 pounds of dead animals rotting in his colon. He's not going to be able to speak the real truth that's going to set a man free, even though a lot of people can resonate with it on the mental aspects of saying the words, but the firepower isn't there. The light of truth, which really gives it a lot of feeling so that people can feel it in their being. They get it mentally, reading out of the Bible or whatever, but there's no feeling, there's no power, there's no emphasis. And that's what we want. And we know that when we get more sensitive and when the thymus gland stays awake, by reactivating that childlike awareness and joy of living through the process of living foods, because the thymus gland can be regenerated and you can actually begin to feel love and feel the animals and feel nature and feel, is this person going to hurt me or is this person going to help me? And when you start to feel again and become resensitized, and yes, this is one hell of a damn journey, because you're going to have some sleepless nights. And that's why, there's a lot of information on the internet. I went vegan for 6 months and I felt my feelings and it was terrible. Then I went back to animal products, desensitized my body again through the uric acid and the shutting down of all these sensitive organs and nervous system, and I felt better. And so basically the world has to always be on drugs. They have to be on the steroids in the meat. They have to be on the genetically modified foods. They have to be on the pharmaceutical, the recreational drugs. 35% of people are on painkillers, and everybody's using some kind of stimulant. But as a yogi, you want to get rid of the drugs. You want to get rid of the stimulants. You want to get rid of the foods that irritate the brain or irritate the tissues, so that you can sit peacefully, calmly, and become a receptive instrument for the divine truth, so that you can be guided into the light, which is where the happiness and the joy and the bliss and the peace, instead of what you see is, here's my truth and I hate everyone who doesn't see the way I see it. And so I don't really think hatred is really one of the qualities of God. And so I don't really believe that those people are making any sense even to themselves, because it really should be about love, and it can be. I mean, I can tell you that from experience. You really can learn to love yourself. You can learn to love God. You can learn to love the truth, and you can learn to love everyone, even the people that hate you. Through enough understanding, you can just see that they just don't know, and then it reflects back to you how blessed you are, because you don't even really believe in your own beliefs. You transcend your own limitations and you just trust. And then you can see that, wow, you're able to transcend your own mind by not even valuing your own ego as little as possible, because you really want the silent peace and ease that transcends the intellect and goes into the divine intelligence. And so really what we're trying to do here with all the things that I've ever taught was just get out of the way of the divine intelligence. So when Jesus said, "Let thy will be done," that makes sense to someone like me. Just get out of the way so that the divine intelligence can live through you. Then all the money you need will be there, the exact right relationship, and it will be divine. And all the perfect food will just show up on the trees, and the health will just be yours, and the youthfulness and the vitality and the simplicity and the ease and the grace will be yours, because you will be ran by the divine consciousness, which is total harmony within itself. Can you dig it?
Super digging it. Amen to all of that. A woman, a everything. Wow. I so appreciate everything you shared. And you talked about loving yourself and that peace. And that's my message. That's what I do. That's the work that I do with people, because I came to realize I've always been fascinated with food and healthy lifestyles and food choices and how to become healthier and experience more well-being. And being in the yoga world for so many years and working with so many people from many different walks of life, I kept seeing, and even in my own life, of course, what makes a difference? Why people choose something good for themselves and then, as we say, fall off the wagon. Let me do this living foods thing, and they feel super great, and then they go back, or whatever the choices are. And then I realized, wait a second, you need to actually love yourself and appreciate and know who you are and really appreciate yourself in order to make choices that demonstrate that level of love and appreciation. And so I realized that if somebody doesn't love themselves, they can try and make better choices, but it just doesn't stick. So it's much better to focus on, let's work on loving yourself and appreciating yourself, and then naturally you're going to start making better choices. And I know you work with clients extensively that come to you mainly with health issues, but then when you go underneath it, why are you eating yourself to death? Or why are you getting into toxic relationships, or whatever is on the list, right? It's like underneath it all, there's sometimes to the extreme of self-hatred.
I talk to people every day. They all think they're going to get some kind of nutritional consult.
Right.
Within 20 or 30 minutes, we get down to what's actually, and it is never the food. Now, of course, I do give nutritional advice, because that is definitely a part of the picture. But for my people that call me up, it's never really what it is that is truly what they need to change in their life. It's always about the relationship, the job, or the avoidance of the trauma and the pain. And thankfully, I was smart enough and strong enough and aware enough and well studied to know that I had to go into it, and I had to learn how to dive into pain and discomfort and ride that ride out. And I know how it goes. We build up all these mechanisms around the trauma of abandonment, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, whatever, divorce or whatever, or death of a loved one, death of a cat. I mean, all these things, we build up all these avoidance mechanisms. A lot of it's food, some of it's work, a lot of it's social media, just projecting onto everyone all day long. I hate you. I don't agree with you. These long written out things, and people spend their whole day. You're like, do you do anything other than comment on videos and YouTube? I mean, don't you go outside? I mean, there's so many things that we do that are avoidance strategies. Instead of sitting alone by yourself without any food, sitting there, not doing anything, feeling yourself, tapping into yourself, not just for 15 minutes where you can build castles in the air, but I'm talking about hours or days on end of sitting there with yourself, doing nothing but meditating on the inner world inside of you. And you're going to want to go back to the candy bars, the food, the work, the exercise, the projections onto other people. But if you really get intentional about this, like, look, I'm 52 years old, I'm not getting any younger. If I don't deal with this now, I'm going to die with this. And it's going to manifest itself as cancer, diabetes, brain damage, depression, all that stuff. And all those diseases are just like, you're not paying attention. It's trying to talk to you. It's divine intelligence. It knows everything. It knows exactly why you're sick. It knows exactly why you keep going to these dumb relationships where these dudes abuse you. It knows exactly why you're 25 years in a job while you hate. All you got to do is sit there with yourself and pray to the divine intelligence to show you. And it'll be like, oh, my dad worked a crappy job for 40 years just to get a pension. And now that's what I see that I'm supposed to do. Although I realize consciously that I am extremely miserable. I'm overweight because all I use is food to stay in this dumb job and eat donuts and drink coffee all day because I'm absolutely miserable. I want to go to Mexico, buy a surfboard, a bag of weed, and go surf, but I won't do it because I have all these excuses in my head. My advice to those people is buy the Volkswagen van, drive to Mexico, get the surfboard, find the girlfriend, sell your house, and don't worry about it. You know, it's the house, it's all this junk. It's all this worthless garbage. My $1 million house, it's a piece of shit. It's totally worthless. It doesn't mean anything in light of your soul. None of it is worth anything. The relationship, it's not worth your dying soul. We're taking crumbs. We're taking little crumbs of life because we're so conditioned when the light of God comes from the freedom of all this stuff. So when you start getting tapped into your own spiritual sadhana, your own spiritual practice, you're tapping into the light inside of you. You're like, oh my God, this is the most important thing. What do you need to tap into the light of God? Maybe a roof over your head so you can focus during meditation. But that could be a little apartment in Thailand for $300 a month. You could start an Amazon business and make that in the first month. I mean, there's so many things you can do if your priorities are right. And so I see it all the time. I mean, I'd love to address it. People are mad at me because of the life that I've created is so divine. The difference between me and them is they want something. They think I'm free and have all this money and all this freedom, and all I do is go to the beach. All I do is serve everyone all day, every day for about 12 to 15 hours a day. I serve other people around me. And the only reason I'm so free is because I don't have anything and I don't want anything. I have this one tiny little apartment. It's dirt cheap and I don't need or want anything. I have my truck paid off. My children are raised. So I don't have to be a slave anymore. So now I can sit in the meditation chair and everything that does come to me, I can just give away. And once you realize that and you start doing the act of service everywhere you go and helping anyone, anywhere that you can, in any way that you can, then you start to see, wow, so this is what life is about. No wonder we're so depressed and miserable because we're all trying to get another bigger house with a wider picket fence and a nicer car to go into the fourth car garage that you got. And you, of course, your 8-year-old doesn't have their own big screen, so you got to work up for that and save up $1,500 for that. You know what I mean? It's just stupid because we've been brainwashed by the society of, and we think that it's all this stuff. And once you start to see through it and you go barefoot and you take your clothes off and you just go sit out into nature and you listen. I went out to the river this morning. I can't wait. I need to go back. I went out there this morning. I could feel the wind. I could feel God in the wind. I could hear God in the sound of the river. I prayed like fire, and it just lifted me up, and I felt this is what it is. Being out in nature, being absorbed by the natural living life force instead of the drywall and the concrete and the cars and the off-gassing of the plastic and the restaurants and the loud noises, just so you can afford to live in a place and buy a bunch of crap you don't really want, to be in a relationship with someone that doesn't even really love you, so that you can buy your kids a whole bunch of crap that they don't even need, that's going to keep them distracted from ever really finding out the real truth about the true value of life, which is just, it's within your skin. It's free. Everything that matters in life is absolutely free. It's totally available to you right now. All you have to do is stop and let it be there and pay attention to it and listen to it and feel it. It's absolutely free. The golden treasure, the diamond of life, the illumination of love, the crown of life is free. It's right now. God is everywhere. Satan is everywhere too. And we fall into that trap. We got our faces in these phones all day. We're trying to just have sex all day. We're trying to just stuff ourselves with tasty foods. We're trying to get famous. We're trying to get all this stuff because we get a little tiny bit. We get a little tiny bit of God every time we accomplish some goal. I bought this car. All right, I'm happy for 5 minutes, maybe a month, maybe even 6 months. You're really digging your car. But then after that, you're flat again. But there's a way to not go flat. There's a way to just be hungry, 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 hungry for God, hungry for truth, more and more. And you realize it's free. And then all this stuff just falls away. And you're like, wow, I just need to learn how to sit still. I need to learn how to listen. I need to learn how to serve without expecting anything in return. I need to learn how to give without anyone seeing, without anyone seeing what I'm doing, but only God sees. And God is the reward giver. And when it sees your pure heart, and when it sees you purifying your mind, it's going to send its angels, the masters, the mystics, the Essenes, your guides. They're there. They see you. And when you pray to them, they're going to come to you. They're going to help you. They're going to guide you. And it's all for free. Everything that matters, everything that will give you life and love and peace and joy, you already have. It's right here, right now. Satan is always trying to take over the world, always trying to distract us. But God is here now, waiting for you to open yourself and get intentional. God, show me who you are. If you're a brand new starter and you think I'm crazy, but there might be a little inkling of truth to this, go and try and say, God, I don't know you. This crazy guy Dan was talking all this stuff. What in the world was he talking about? Can you show me? And you will be shown. And it's amazing because your heart will be so full, and all you will want when you get to a certain point, you will be starving to death for more of God's presence. And that's all that you want, is to have a pure heart, a quiet and peaceful mind. And if you're lucky enough to be used by God for its glory, I don't say him because it's both. It's the androgynous Godhead. And if you are used by the masculine, feminine power of God in your hands, and you can get out of the way, and everything becomes God, then you're off the hook. Then you're not guilty of anything, but simultaneously, you also don't get to take credit. So what does that mean? Boom, you're right in the center of peace. Your hands are off. Your intention is what matters. That's what you have, and it's all inside of us. It's all free. It's all available right now. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be good looking. You don't have to have the perfect Instagram butt. You don't have to be able to hold the perfect yoga pose. You can be uglier than a pile of shit, and God can still love you. You know what I mean? You can be skinny, and God loves you. You can be overweight, and you can bring it into yourself. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be anything. All you have to do is have a good heart. And that levels the playing field. And no one wants a level playing field. You mean that guy over there who's not as good looking as me, which I've used my looks to feel better and superior, puts me down on that guy's level who has big ears and a big nose and acne? You mean he can have a pure heart too? And we're all equal and we're all unified by the field? Yeah, it's a pure heart. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm just saying that this is me channeling the things that I need to learn for myself. This is for me. This is to remind me of what I'm here to do. That's all I teach anymore. I teach myself. That's what my YouTube videos are, to remind myself. That's what this video is. If anyone wants to get anything out of it, that's fine, but this is for me. I need to keep purifying my heart. I need to get this stuff out of my brain, the porn, the filth, the judgments, all that crap that got put in there, the violence, the hatred, the criticism of myself and others. It all needs to be purified. And I will be busy probably the rest of this lifetime. People ask me all the time, how long do I got to do this? Is 21 days enough? No. You will be doing this for the rest of your life. You never stop sadhana. My guru, he was a perfected master, and he still, for all of us, continued to meditate every day, continued to write the mantras, continued to sing the songs of praises all the time, and never stopped, because he wanted to set a good example. Even though his whole life was meditation, he was already there. He was completely absorbed in God consciousness at all times. And yet, for us, he showed us that it has to be real, you know? And he kept on for his entire life doing his spiritual sadhana, waking up at 4 a.m, eating fruits, you know, and that was just what he did. And every day I'm changed by that and uplifted by that. And I'm just glad that I had a chance to share that, because I'm inspired myself.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, I believe that we teach what we need the most. And that is very humbling. It's not a coincidence that we are chosen to be a teacher of whatever it is, or to walk a certain path, because that is for our own evolution. And then we get to serve as well. But it's we are not separate from those that we serve, basically. So serving others is serving oneself. And we do teach what we need the most. And everything you shared, this is not for the faint of heart. To be so committed, and that's how I see it. It's even beyond committed. You are devoted. You are devoted to this path. You are devoted to purifying your heart. You are devoted to God, which, the way I see it and the way I teach it, is you are a child of God. God is not something that is separated from us. God is living through us. And when you see yourself as that child of God, because it's so much more than just self-love. There's loving yourself. That's just the beginning. And then when you love yourself, you also realize, wait, I'm a child of God. So how am I going to treat myself as a child of God? And when you really get devoted to that path, like you said, no, 21 days, it's not the end. It's just the beginning. It is just the beginning. So what would you say for those that perhaps do get discouraged or overwhelmed, or, oh, this is too much, or living in this world? Because that's the thing. I'm a sensitive creature, and I know how challenging it can be. And not everybody can just go and live on an island and removed from so much of what we are bombarded with. So what do you tell people that do they want to devote themselves to this path, yet they feel very challenged?
Well, when they get serious about it, they'll find the right environment. Till then, you know, they haven't quite committed yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll happen naturally, you know. She'll bring you here and put your ass down onto her, you know, because even if you're dragging your feet, she will bring you here, or that place will bring you to it, because it knows what you need, and it knows your heart, and it knows your intention. And so the reason why this works out so well for me is because my successes inspire me back to the path, and my failures inspire me back to the path. So I cannot lose. And I fail all the time. As you want to get more and more purified, you realize, wow, there's a lot of lust. When you have a lot of light and you're a very masculine man, because that's the energy of the masculine, it's like, there's going to be every woman in the whole place is going to see your fire. And when you're not totally purified, it's going to be real easy to get sucked in many different ways. That's been one of the challenges recently, but I'm coming out on the other side of it after a few small failures. Thankfully, no one was scathed, but basically that to break free from the flesh, you know, the desires of the flesh to eat so much food, when moderation is extremely beneficial for our meditations, our yoga, our longevity, and our clarity, you know. And as far as like one of the biggest things for me has been, you know, the lust of, and it's not really out of control, but you're looking at a dude who was a total womanizer, who used women, and they used me too, to survive. You know, when I was more homeless, you know, I'd stand outside the bar at 2 a.m. and find a place to sleep on a cold night. I mean, you know, that's just how I was pure survival. I'm not mad at myself for that, but it built a lot of tracks. And as I've evolved, I know more and more about divine union and purification in relationships and purifying my mind. And so that is, and you know, I fail all the time. You know, sometimes I'll I don't want to meditate this morning. That's the worst thing that happens to me. I can't do that. But there was a few times where, you know, I just missed meditation. And once you get on that and you have a daily meditation practice or a daily anything practice and you miss it, you know it, you feel it. If you have a 30-minute in the morning yoga practice, a 20-minute rebounding in the morning practice, and you miss that, if it bothers you, that's you slipping, you know. And there's all types of ways to slip, and everyone's got their own little thing. We shouldn't judge each other, and which is what we do. Well, you do this. Was like, well, yeah, but you just ate a large pizza and drank Coca-Cola, you know. So this guy over here, he's dealing with a porn addiction. This guy over here is dealing with heroin addiction. This person over here is dealing with a sugar addiction. You know what I mean? And we're all pointing at each other. My addiction's more okay than your addiction. And all those addictions suck. And I know everything about addiction. And I have finally come to a point in my life where I am completely sober. And I've even taken, this is crazy, I know, but in order to really succeed on the path of the yogi for Christ, it's very difficult for people to understand, but it is not difficult for me to understand at all. Jesus was a master yogi. I stand firm in my own belief and desire, and I don't really care what anyone says. I don't care about religion. It doesn't do anything for me. I've never seen it really work for anyone. The truth, that'll set you free, but religion will keep you spinning around in circles thinking this group that I belong to is better than all these other groups, and they're all going to hell, but our group is going to heaven. Well, your group is already in hell. You just don't know it, you know, because you've got your intellectualization. Because hell is separation and unity is heaven. And when you start to see your unity with the animals, you see your unity with the trees and the birds and life, that's when you really get tapped in, and that's when you become one with and start to become resensitized. I don't even know what I was saying about all this, about the addiction, but I wanted to say, though, that sobriety on every level, and I'm talking about ayahuasca, I know that you get to a point where you just, it's all the same. The mushrooms, the ayahuasca, the cocaine, and everyone wants to argue, but after a while, you got to get rid of the crutches and learn to walk. And what I've found, my experience has been hardcore, sober, every single day, slowly but surely sludging through your own muck and mire of on a day-to-day basis of reality without any drugs or any altercations of your mind, and actually integrating these things day in and day out is the way. Sludging through, slowly but surely evolving yourself. That's the way that I've found that it actually sticks. You can have these huge, I used to take people on mushroom journeys. I'd say, does anyone have a problem with Jesus? No one ever said yes. And so we would pray in the name of Jesus to be blessed by these mushrooms. We'd go out and everybody would be like, oh my God, I saw Jesus. And everyone would have these revelations of Christ. But yet what I found is that no one would really integrate it. You know what I mean? So it never really integrated, but so it was good. They would have these revelations. I remember one of my girlfriends at the time, I had this picture book of Jesus, and we were tripping balls on mushrooms. And she's like, she picks up the book of Jesus and she goes, this is it. And I said, I've been trying to tell you, you know, you knucklehead. You know, she finally got it, but it didn't integrate. So if you get rid of all that stuff and all the altercations, and you get real with it every day, day in and out, and you're dealing with your feelings without drugs, without painkillers, without sugar, without alcohol, without food, and you do the fasting, and you do the mono diets, and you do the detoxifications, and you get sober from everything, that's when you start to really make a lot of progress. When you pull out all the crutches, and food is the final and last and late great one. You can go without sex, you can go without drugs, you do need some food, probably a lot less than what we think, but food is a real tough one. And we can rationalize it. Well, I think I need the protein in this pizza, you know, but it's like, really, you actually want to eat that pizza because the cheese and the bread will numb you out because it's got all those morphines, queso morphines, and all that dopamine in there and everything else. So food can be a drug as well, but getting sober, as hard as it is, man, you know, there's nothing like taking a big bong hit and just checking out for about 6 hours or whatever. I totally get it. This world is hardcore, but you need to learn how to get high or deal with everything with your mind. And I know it's talking a big game and everyone's got their own beliefs, but that's just where I'm at right now. It's been really nice to be clear and sober, you know, and to be dialed in like that, and it makes it more real. So how about that?
I dig it. I absolutely dig it. And I just everything that you're saying, I resonate with you 100%. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video. And every time I listen to you, it's like, yeah, somebody gets me. Yeah, somebody's speaking the truth. And everything that you share about religion, and that you really don't give a flying fuck about what other people think. It's just like, this is my truth. And this is something I've always seen about religion. And it's about time to come out of the closet. And the more of us that have the courage to come out of the closet and talk about this and really talk about the truth of Jesus and his life. And there's a lot of information out there. It's just a matter of looking for it and sharing it with one another, and have the courage to just speak the truth. And I appreciate that about you so much so, and that you speak your truth with so much passion, and you live it too.
Well, here's the thing about Jesus. I don't know. I never met the guy.
Yeah.
All I know is this: if we're talking about some dude, if we're talking about the light some dude brought to this planet 2,000 years ago, that's all I see is the light of Jesus. That's my very first experience in this life, on a puppet bus with Ernie and Bert, talking about the light of Jesus. And I walked right up there and I said, that's what I want to those puppets. And the puppets were like, well, you'll have to wait till the end of the show and then we'll pray for you. I said, no, I want that right now. I started the whole show. And they were like, the puppeteers, I remember this like it was yesterday. I was 4 years old in front of my preschool. And they said, dear Jesus, come into this boy's heart. Bam. The light of Jesus. Because they were talking about the light of Jesus. And that's all I know. Everyone has the mathematical, linear, Newtonian paradigm figured out of who Jesus was, what he ate, what he said to do. I mean, some people think that Jesus drank pig's blood, you know what I mean? Or whatever. I don't know. And I don't even care. I'm going to let everyone have their coffee shop debates and heated arguments and waste their whole life away arguing about who Jesus was. I'm going to try to see if I can feel the presence of that energy that is 2,000 years ago. Some dude did something so cool that we're still talking about it. You know what I mean? You remember those other people? No, me either. But we were talking about this dude. We're not going to be talking about the people that had these dumb little things that didn't say anything. Whatever he did, we're still talking about it. And that's enough for me. I don't really know. I never met the dude. But like, I will be honest with you. When I read the red, I can dig it. When I read the black and white, it doesn't mean shit to me because I don't care about whales and floods and all this crap. Dudes getting swallowed by whales and Cain killing Abel. It's like Cain is still killing Abel. You know what I mean? Cain is still killing Abel. Brother is still killing brother. And we have pulled our heads out of our butts and woke up and we are kill, 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 kill. And so I don't know, would Jesus slit the pig's head? I can't see the perfect, pure Son of God slitting a pig's head off or killing a cow or any of that. I can't picture that myself, but I don't know. And that's enough for me. I mean, that's what will set us free. Because when we know about what we don't really know about, people are so sure about Jesus, but how could they be if they never met the dude? Nobody knows. Because in order to know, you have to experience it. And there's nobody on the planet right now that experienced Jesus. So everybody's talking out their ass, and it means absolutely zero. I'll say that I am inspired by that light. That is still, in my opinion, the light of Christ is still on this planet. It's inside of all of us, and ye shall do greater things. So let's quit arguing at the coffee shop about whether Donald Trump's hairpiece is real or not. And let's get our butts to work on the inside and get ourselves purified and get our minds right so that we can earn the crown. Because if Jesus did say, race for the crown of the glory of God, you can be rest assured, he didn't say go to the coffee shop or go on the internet and argue about all the crap that I said and have heated debates bumping each other's heads. The yogis have been having heated debates. The Christians have been heated debates. Everyone's having heated debates. The humble man is getting the hell out of there. He's going to nature somewhere quiet where he can listen. And he wants to hear the word of the Lord in his heart because he is desperately hungry and starving for it, because the mentalizations and the heated debates or being right is not enough. Word. Never heard myself say all that before. I prayed real strong today at the river. I prayed to all of them that would listen and come and help me because I need it. I had the last few days, I was like depressed one day. And I was like, wow, I haven't been depressed in a long time. And you know what? But it was a day where like everyone was angry, aggravated. I didn't get angry or aggravated. A lot of other people were, but I was just like depressed. I was thinking, what in the world are they doing? Because they're just doing stuff. They're doing a lot of stuff. This whole silent weapons for the quiet war that's going on. And one of the weapons is for the black against the white, the Christians against the Muslims, the vegans against the carnivores, blah, blah, blah. So that we're killing each other while they're killing us. But they are up here and working quietly through technologies and the enslavement of mankind's mind. And of course, you never find any truth on Google anymore. You won't find any truth on the YouTube. It's not allowed. Stuff like this we could slip in because we're so crazy and out of balance. But if we had a question about vaccines or chemtrails or the poisoning of the food, we would get our channel shut down. But if we talk about God, we didn't just rise up above all that, tap in, and it's like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to eat those genetically modified foods. I'm not going to get my kids vaccinated. And I'm going to turn the Wi-Fi off at night. Maybe you can go outside and sleep on the ground. And I'm going to turn off my dumb phone. I'll check my Instagram and tell everyone, hey, I love you, everyone. Put up a little picture, see ya. Then you put your phone down and you go outside. Then you come back and you check your emails. You spend about an hour max on your phone every day. You take care of the business. And then get off that thing and get your butt outside and go get dirty and get muddy and get wet and get cold and get hot and get sweaty and climb trees and find the wild food that's growing around you and take a few bites of dandelion or nettles or find some blueberries or something and get reconnected back to the sanity of the earth. And you'll get reconnected back to the sanity, and then everything we're talking about here will make perfect sense to
you. Yes, absolutely. Oh my God. Yeah, yes. It's what you are talking about is it's so deeply connected with the rising of the feminine also that is happening on the planet right now. So there's a lot of horrendous things for sure. And there's also an immense awakening that is sweeping over us. And a big part of it is the awakening of the feminine, which is what you've been speaking about all this time, is that purification of the heart and feeling again and connecting to Mother Nature. That is the feminine, because we've veered so far off the path of nature. And appreciating this planet as a living organism and appreciating the feminine and her wisdom and how much we can learn from that.
I have taken the sisterhood and put it in my heart, and I've taken the brotherhood and put it in my mind. And I connected the two and became one. And now, of course, I roll, on planet and play puppet as a man. But during the 40-day water fast, I became both. I was the androgynous one, and it was awesome. I love playing a man. I'm not going to lie. It's really fun.
And you're doing a great job.
Yeah, it's great. But when you water fast and you take out all the food and you take out all the activation of the chromosomes that activate the X and the Y and make you into thinking that you're a man or thinking that you're a woman, when you take all the food out and you go on a long water fast, everything, the whole biology slows down, and the spirit, which is the androgynous masculine and feminine, comes in completely and totally and takes you over. And then there's nothing, you could have 100 women dancing naked around you, even touching you or anything, and nothing would happen. It's hilarious. But then as soon as you start eating again, then it's like, you're right back where you started. It's so funny to see the biology of the microorganisms and how food affects the genetics expression of those microorganisms, and then how that hits your RNA and then turns you back into a masculine man again with all this fire. It's absolutely incredible. So if you ever get a chance to do a long water fast, then you can, because it totally transformed everything about my entire life. And it brought me to this point where you never saw me talking about this a year ago, this kind of stuff. And so it just totally reactivated and re-energized everything. And I'm ready for another one, because I realized that, Daniel, the prophet, that's who I am, and that's not but that's just me embracing my journey. And if anyone wants to hear the prophetic words of the guy you call Dan McDonald, then that'll be great. And for those that don't, I'm not going to worry about it too much. But, I'm just I know my intention to clear away the debris so that I can just be a pure channel for God. I don't want any credit. I don't want, hopefully there's enough money for me to have a snack and a roof over my head. I'm sure that's been working itself out perfectly lately. So, but there's really no dreams of big castles and private jets and anything like that. It's just a matter of simplicity is my favorite. Simplicity and freedom. Freedom from the enslavement of the schedule of the 9 to 5. It's like, I want to take a crap and it's like 11 a.m. and you can't even take a crap because you're at work and you get bathroom breaks or something. It's so unnatural. You might want to take a nap at 2 p.m, but you can't do that. So you need to drink a cup of coffee, you need a candy bar to whoop your tired ass system that's totally out of whack with today's modern world and the 9 to 5 enslavement. And so when you get to a point, but the thing is you can't get free if you really want to get a lot of stuff. It'll be your own goals that will enslave you. And then once you align your goals to the one goal of life, which the one goal of life is self-realization. It's always going to be that way. It's never going to, all you really are trying to do by getting this little titillation and this little thing for a minute and feeling good because you have this sensation or this pleasure, it's a temporary, freedom from want. Like, I want the pizza, and you're thinking all week, all right, I'm going out for pizza on Friday. And then after you eat the pizza, boom, now what? You know what I mean? You were anticipating that. You enjoyed the pizza. So while you were there, there's this freedom from want for just a minute. But then another want comes back in and you're no longer free. So if you could free yourself from wanting this and just be present, I'm not free from wanting this. I want to go back to the river where I was, right? That's why I was a little bit late for the call. And I can't wait to get back there because I want to feel what I felt this morning, which was the total presence of nature and God just breezing right across my skin. It was incredible. I can't wait nature is my lover.
Oh, I'm with you 100%. 100%, Dan. I get that. And oh my God, we can keep going for hours and hours and hours. And I want to honor your time and let you go back to the river. And what I would like us to do a video at some point talking more about fasting. That's definitely part of my path. The longest I've done so far is 6 days. I'm doing 3 days now. Today's just the second day. But what I really want to address, because what I see online mainly is men talking about fasting, because it's quite of a masculine path, the fasting path. However, women can benefit from it just as much. I feel that there's a bit of a difference, though, just because of our biology and hormones and stuff. So at some point, I would love for us to talk about that and educate people more about fasting and the differences between men and women, and just for you to share your own experience.
My pleasure. So let's do that. This was very enjoyable. You held such great space, and I know that it's always the interviewer's consciousness that allows me to, that's what comes forth. So I know where your consciousness is by listening to what just came through. So I thought that's just a great space for me to come from everything. So I'd be happy to do this again.
Awesome. Okay. I'll be in touch with you and we'll schedule another time.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome, Dan. Well, enjoy the river. Thank you so much. For those of you that are curious more and want to see Dan and his videos, and he has tons of recipes and more about the raw living foods and love and just awesomeness, then check out his video, his channel, Dan McDonald, The Life Regenerator, right? On YouTube.
Just Life Regenerator.
Life Regenerator.
Yeah, and it's true. Every level: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual life regeneration.
That's right.
I'm glad I picked that in 2007. I had no idea why, but now I do.
Now you do.
I'm grateful that I aligned myself with that. Life regeneration to all the way to illumination.
Boom.
I can see already around you. Maybe it'll show up in the video, maybe not. Maybe it's just my own eyes, but I can see your aura.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've been,
It's pure.
Yeah.
It's a pure white, clean, a seen aura.
Yay. Those with eyes to see, right? Those with eyes to see and ears to hear. That's who
may they be blessed.
Absolutely.
And those who do not have the eyes or ears yet, may these be seeds. Maybe there was irritation. If they're still here, though, then there's a reason. May these seeds plant in you for some other time in this life or the next.
Yep. Aho.
Aho.
Aho. So much love, Dan. Thank you so much.
Can you send this to me?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send this to you.
Put it up on my channel too.
Awesome. Okay, and
Thanks,
we'll be in touch. Yeah, thank you. Aloha.
Good vibes. Peace.
Yes, peace.